meeting has been recorded live and will be available to view through the Council's website. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing either from the Council chamber, Civic Offices, Angel Street, Bridgend, or from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to a silent mode. Members and officers will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones and wear their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times, you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and ensure that the connection remains as stable as possible. Please, can I also ask that members and officers in the chamber speak directly into the microphone to ensure that they are heard by those attending the meeting remotely. Whether attending in the chamber or remotely, if any member or officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in order I receive the requests. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I would also ask officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. So I shall now proceed to agenda business. Item number 1 on our agenda are apologies to absence. Are there any apologies for absence, please? I'm looking for the raised hands in front of me. Are there any apologies for absence, or we have a full council? Chief Exec, please.
Lindsay Harvey, Corporate Director of Education and Family Support, gives his apologies unwell.
Thank you, Mark. I can see that there are no hands raised in front of me, so I assume we have a full house, whether or not in the chamber or remotely.
Mr. Mayor, I've got my hand up.
I can't see it in front of me. I can see it to the left-hand side, yes, but not on the list in front of me. Councillor Nora Clark, please.
Thank you. I'd like to give Councillor Ross Penhill Thomas's apologies.
Thank you. Those apologies are noted. I can see now there are no hands being raised in front of me. Councillor Heidi Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Joanna Llewellyn Hopkins may be able to join us later. She's just sent her apologies in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. And our leader, Councillor Hugh David.
Apologies from Councillor Tilsley, please, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. And I can see Mr. Shell, Zach Shell, has raised his hand.
Yeah, just to inform you that Janine Nightingale, the Director for Communities, is on annual leave and I'm attending in her stead.
Thank you, Mr. Shell. No other apologies, so I'm going to move on to item number 2 on our agenda, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? I'm looking left, I'm looking right, I'm looking in the middle, and I can see that nobody's raised their hand, so I assume there are no declaration of interest. Councillor Heidi Bennett?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I declare an interest in item 6, the Wellbeing Plan for Cwmtaf Morgannwg, as a member of the Public Service Board and Regional Partnership Board through my employment?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bennett. Can I appeal, please, to officers who are supporting us technically to see if we can resolve the issue on the right-hand side of the screen so I can see who actually is raising their hands. At the moment, I'm having to go left, middle, and right to try and find out who is actually trying to speak. Thank you. Now moving on then to item number 3 in our agenda, which is approval of minutes. To receive for the approval of minutes for the council meeting dated the 1st of March. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Second? Thank you. Can I also have approval for the minutes of the council meeting? Sorry, I can see Councillor Jane Gebby, the Deputy Leader, has raised her hand. Councillor Gebby?
It's only to make one minor amendment in the minutes for the 1st of March, please, Mr. Mayor, and that was it said on page 11 that the trade union pay claim for staff was unfair. I actually said the pay claim for staff was fair, considering the motion that I actually produced at council the following month. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gebby. I'm sure officers will pick that up. Can I now then move to approval of the minutes of council dated the 15th of March? Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
I move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4 on our agenda, and that is to receive announcements. First on the list, of course, is myself. Can I inform you all that since our last full council meeting, I've had the pleasure yet again of meeting some incredible and remarkable people within our county borough. I attended the birthday celebrations of Mrs. Helena Charles, BEM, who celebrated her 105th birthday in her home community of Blaengarrow. A truly remarkable lady who shared memories of a lifetime in the Garrow Valley. Mrs. Charles is probably our most senior person in the county borough, but I'm sure I will be corrected if this is not right. Once again, happy birthday, Mrs. Charles. You are an inspiration to us all. I met with the Ogmore Valley Suicide Awareness Group and had the pleasure of making an award to its members, a Mayor's Certificate for their service to the community. The group were nominated for such an award by the Ogmore Valley Community Council. It was a truly humbling experience to meet members of the group, some of which had themselves experienced the collateral trauma of suicide. To listen to their experiences and witness at first hand their incredible focus and positivity to help others suffering from mental health was certainly incredible. It was a particularly proud moment to attend the declaration ceremony of our new High Sheriff of Mid Glamorgan, Professor Jean White. Professor White is a resident of Pencord, so it was a very proud moment to witness the declaration. I'm sure the whole chamber will join me in wishing Professor White the very best in her 12-month term of office. Can I also take this opportunity to thank the outgoing High Sheriff, Maria Thomas, for her support to the County Borough during her term of office. It was a pleasure to accompany and work with Maria at various civic events, both in the County Borough and beyond. I also had the privilege of welcoming Princess Anne, Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, to the Bridgend Carers Facility at Park Street, Bridgend. The event, led by Helen Pitt, manager of the Bridgend Carer Centre, just demonstrates how a vital service the Bridgend carers provide to unpaid carers. It was clear that unpaid carers make such a difference to our communities, often in very difficult situations. The energy and pride within the centre was palpable. A big thank you to all the team at Bridgend Carers. I am sure the whole chamber will again continue to support your vital engagement and service to the most vulnerable. It was quite an experience, I have to say, and a first for me to be guest of honour for a visit to the Dar Iwai Izara Mosque at Wyvern Road in Cardiff to share a Ramadan meal. This was an incredible experience, especially when asked to address the congregation. I met so many lovely people and enjoyed the various presentations of the meaning of Ramadan, which is a sacred time and a key celebration in the Islamic calendar. I would like to personally thank Dr. Yasmin Khan for her hospitality and her company during our evening meal. Of course, going back to the royal visit to Bridgend, This is not the first time that our council leader had met the Royal Highness. Councillor Hugh David has recently been presented with an OBE by the Princess Royal at Windsor Castle for public service. I'm sure all of the council chamber will, I'm sure, offer congratulations to you, Councillor Hugh David, on such a great achievement. Well done. And finally, there are still names on the Dragon list. The Dragon is still in the members' lounge. I'm getting very close to the end of my term of office, and I would like to think that all the names have been signed off with the payment of £1. That's all it takes. Thank you, members. So I'm now going to move on to members of the Cabinet, and perhaps start on my left. Councillor Rees, good?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Councillor Spanswick, I'm just more important, obviously. Recent media coverage has highlighted work that has been taking place to improve local communities by brightening up hotspots of vandalism and antisocial behaviour. This is being achieved by commissioning professional graffiti artists to paint uplifting scenes and images at each location, all designed to raise spirits and encourage a greater sense of community pride. So far, it has improved the look of subways located in areas such as Merthyr Mawr, Brackler and Broadlands, and while the media coverage today is focused upon this aspect, I think members would be interested to know that there is a deeper reason behind this work. It all forms part of the Positive Messages campaign, a project which is seeking to combat hateful vandalism and divisive sloganeering by turning it into stunning art that all the community can enjoy. Organised by our own Community Safety Partnership and the Western Bay Community Cohesion Team, the project has involved working with local staff within the council to identify problem hotspots. Suitable counter-narratives have been developed in partnership with local groups such as the Bridgend Writers Circle, and replacement artwork has been designed by graffiti artists such as Another Day, Another Spray and THEW Creative. For example, a central message of hope was chosen for the Merthyr Mawr subway, while nature was selected for the subway in Brackler. Both have made a massive difference to the local community, and they have drawn a huge amount of praise and attention for being positive, transformative impact that they are having. Hate and division has no place in Bridgend County Borough, and I would like to thank everyone who's been part of this inspirational project so far and urge all members to go down and have a closer look. Just in closing, I am sadly aware that since I wrote this announcement, some damage has taken place to some of these murals within the borough. I want to reassure local members who I know have raised it on social media that action is being taken to both repair it and to prevent this happening in future. I think it is unfortunate that there is obviously a very small group within our community that wishes to diminish the positive work that we are doing. So I just wanted to reassure members on that in closing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor John Spanswick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on the far left. And congratulations to that team, because I can just say that work, the artwork on the subway, the one in Brackler with the wildlife, unfortunately, there's one member of the public who said she's frightened to go in there because of a large snake's head painted on the so it was brilliant work on, really talented stuff. So we recently completed a clean-up of 10-mile section, the A48, to remove litter, which has been largely thrown from passing cars, and which has accumulated along the verge and in trees along the roadside shrubbery. To give an idea of how extensive this problem was, our staff collected more than 550 bags within the first 2 days alone. By the end of the week, a total of 1,200 bags had been filled with discarded litter, the equivalent of 120 bags for every 1 mile of road covered. In addition to this, our staff also removed 3.5 tons of fly tipping from the route, which included items ranging from sofas, chairs, items of furniture to torn tyres, wooden pallets and builders' waste. And because of the need to create a safe working environment, slow-moving impact protection vehicles had to be used, and rolling sections of the route had to be shut down to a single lane. This meant that the cost of the clean-up was more than £6,000, which has not been budgeted for. Every single penny of this could have been better spent on providing other services if only people had chosen to take their litter home and dispose of it in a responsible manner. As a result, the council has used this exercise as an opportunity to publicise the utter futility of dropping litter, as people who do this are ultimately hitting themselves and other taxpayers in the pocket. At a time when council budgets are being squeezed and the cost of living crisis is hitting us hard, Our message is for people to take responsibility for their own rubbish and recycling, and not to let taxpayers pick up the bill for dealing with UMS. This is an issue we will be seeking to publicise further in the future and bring you more details soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spanzik. Although not here in person but accessing the meeting virtually, Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members may be interested to know that a number of local schools have recently been assessed by inspectors from Eston and praised for supporting local learners. Avon Bryn Menyn and Kennelly Primary Schools have all been inspected and have all been deemed successful for demonstrating sufficient progress with no follow-up actions required. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, all schools were exempt from Eston inspections for a 2-year period, which extended from March 2020 to February 2022. While that was in effect, Eston developed new inspection procedures which focus upon how well providers are supporting a child to learn rather than using summative gradings used previously. The current reporting format now uses one of 4 categories when inspecting the school: no follow-up, Eston review, significant improvement required, and special measures required. I'm sure that members will want to join me in congratulating the 3 schools on their inspection success. I also want to congratulate 9-year-old Harry Evans from Plasnewydd Primary School for a successful poster design, which is being used as the focal point of the Love It, Don't Trash It campaign in Maesteg. Harry's design is being featured on bins and lamppost signage throughout the Limpy Valley to support the anti-littering campaign. His poster features the Grade 2 listed Maesteg Town Hall and the Limpy River with a clear message to not discard litter irresponsibly, but to place this in one of the town's bins. As part of the campaign, pupils have taken part in the interactive workshops delivered by ADA Recycling, as well as litter picks and science-based workshops facilitated by Nature Quest. The Love It, Don't Trash It campaign has already proved to be a big success in areas such as Porthcawl, Brackla, the Ogmore Valley, the Garrow Valley, and Pyle, Kenfig Hill and Kevin Cribrow. I'm sure that it will be just as successful in the Maesteg area, especially with Harry's poster to represent it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blundell, and congratulations and well done to Harry. Deputy Leader, Councillor Gebbie, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members will all be aware that Bridgend County Borough Council has a strong record of promoting the importance of foster care and of our long-standing and ongoing efforts to recruit new foster carers. We're about to take this to the next level by seeking to become an accredited fostering-friendly employer. Created by the UK's leading fostering charity, Fostering Network, this is a standard which is presented to organisations that can demonstrate their support for both fostering and people who act as foster carers. To support this, they've developed a programme which, upon completion, sees a participating organisation adopt a fostering-friendly policy. This ensures that staff who act as foster carers can work flexibly where possible and can receive up to 5 days leave for foster care issues, such as helping a child settle into their new home or to attend relevant training that supports them in their fostering role. This is an important step for a council to take, as we need to lead by example and demonstrate to other employers and organisations that it is possible to be both an effective employee and an effective foster carer. I also want to break the myth that individuals are not allowed to work if they become a foster carer. This move will support our own efforts in recruiting new foster carers who can offer children vital day-to-day support, love and stability, and act as a positive role model. If members would like to know more, further details are available at the Foster Wales Bridgend website. And I'd also like to repeat the offer made to members who attended our training session in relation to foster care. So you can all have a t-shirt to wear to the gym. It will promote and advertise Foster Care Wales. And I think what I would say is it's such a rewarding role, and I would encourage any member of the public to explore this opportunity. I found it extraordinarily rewarding, and I still find joy in this today, in this role 35 years on. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie. Councillor Neil O'Farr, please.
Apologies. I'll start again. I get extra time now, do I?
I am sure that members will have noted the recent news coverage regarding the purchase by Welsh Government of key pieces of land in Porthcawl that are vital for the Council's regeneration of the waterfront area. The sale has included the freehold interest in the Coney Beach amusement park site and the leasehold interest in an adjoining section of land known locally as the Monster Park. The significance of this, of course, is that it has freed up council time and resources and has enabled us to focus more of our resources upon maximising the benefits of the regeneration. As a result, we are seeking to increase the amount of affordable housing that will become available as part of this project. The acquisition of the two sites means that the whole of the 20-hectare zone required for this phase of the regeneration has now been unlocked. This is a major sign of confidence from the Welsh Government, both in Porthcawl as a location and a community, and in the Council's plans for regeneration. We will now be seeking to work in partnership with the Welsh Government to regenerate the area in line with the local development plan and the placemaking strategy for Porthcawl. I will, of course, bring you news as this develops further. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Also, Councillor Howell-Williams is also accessing the meeting virtually. Councillor Howell-Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to once again ask members to urge their constituents to remain vigilant for the latest scams seeking to convince householders to part with cash or hand over confidential information. The pandemic lockdown saw the criminals behind these scams become increasingly creative, and I regret to report that we are continuing to receive complaints and reports from concerned residents. The most common scam continues to involve fake phone call, advising householders that they are owed a refund on their council tax payments. The scammers ask for confidential bank account details in order to arrange for a rebate to be paid. But victims of this scam subsequently find that their bank accounts have been raided. We also receive complaints from people who have been offered fake refunds on their water, electricity or gas bills. Bridgend County Borough Council will never phone a householder to ask them to provide bank account details over the telephone. Anyone who feels like they may have fallen victim to such a scam should contact their bank immediately and report it to the police by calling 101. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Chief Exec, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one announcement. Members will recall that the last meeting of full council, you approved the new corporate plan for the period 2023 to 2028. Following this, we took the plan away for further design and translation work and to prepare it for a public launch. I'm pleased to inform you that this has now been completed and that we are preparing to publicly launch the new corporate plan next week. Called Delivering Together, the plan showcases a fresh new approach for outlining how we intend to provide essential services, work alongside local people and partners, and carry out business over the next 5 years. Specifically designed to be more accessible and easier for people to engage with, it has been produced using feedback from residents of all ages and backgrounds, users and providers of council services, elected members, partner organisations, other local authorities and more. The new corporate plan for 23 to 28 provides us with a clear, well-informed and relevant basis for ensuring that we can continue to provide essential services while meeting the numerous challenges that stand before us. Over the next few weeks, we'll be carrying out further publicity to highlight different aspects of the plan, including a social media campaign, and members will receive an email featuring more information and a hyperlink to the plan itself. I hope that members will lend their support to this publicity campaign and you will encourage your constituents to access and read the plan and to consider how they too can offer feedback and help shape how we deliver our services in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on then to item number 5 on our agenda to receive announcements by the Leader. Council Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members will have seen news reports about an illegal gathering over the Easter bank holiday weekend at Kenfig Industrial Estate in Margam, which, as most of you know, is in Neath Talbot, but on the border with Bridgend County Borough. South Wales Police made a public order to direct people to leave the area. For safety reasons, urgent road closures were put in place with people advised not to attend the gathering on foot or in vehicles.
Responding to an illegal gathering of this size and nature takes its toll on our emergency services, highways teams and clean-up crews who were unexpectedly called out on Easter Sunday. I would like to thank the local community for their patience and support, along with colleagues at South Wales Police, Neath Talbot Council and other partner agencies who work together to deal with the situation and ensure people left the site safely. Criminal investigations are ongoing. Also notified over the weekend that a number of caravans had parked illegally at the Rest Bay playing fields in Porthcawl. We took swift action, and in conjunction with South Wales Police, a notice was served requiring the caravans to leave the site. Under law, councils must follow a set process and are required to carry out social services assessments and confirm that there are no welfare issues before a notice can be served. As a result of this response, the caravans left the site on Monday. New legislation from Welsh Government means that from 17th of September 2023, the national speed limit will fall from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour on restricted roads. Members will know from the all-member briefing that they received that the move aims to reduce road injuries, offer a safe environment to encourage cycling and walking, as well as lower pollution. An online public engagement exercise is currently underway on local exemptions to the reduction from 30 miles an hour to 20 miles per hour, and this will remain open until 24th of April. And of course, I would encourage members to promote the consultation to their constituents so they can take part. We have received a letter of comfort from the Deputy Minister for Climate Change at Welsh Government, Lee Walters, about funding for the implementation of the lower speed limit. As you will appreciate, it requires a significant investment in replacement and new signage. I also received in the letter from Lee Walters confirmation that a planned consultation over the difficult issue of pavement parking has been postponed until next year. This follows feedback from council leaders advising that greater focus needs to firstly be placed upon the implementation of the new national speed limit requirements, and I'm pleased to see that the Deputy Minister has listened to our concerns. While parking on pavement is not currently illegal in Wales unless a vehicle is causing an obstruction, Scotland is in the process of banning the practice, and it is already illegal in London. Charities such as Living Streets Cymru and the RNIB have long argued that keeping pavements clear of vehicles is essential for blind or partially sighted people, and also for people with mobility issues who may be forced out into the road to get around a vehicle. We will bring you further details when the consultation is relaunched later in 2024. And in his letter, the Minister also confirmed a short extension of the bus emergency scheme to the end of the summer term. The Minister convened a meeting involving the Welsh Local Government Association, representatives of the bus industry and Transport for Wales. It was agreed that the bus emergency scheme has run its course and it is committed to working in partnership to find the best possible way forward. Finally, the coronation of King Charles III is set to take place on Saturday, 6th of May, and a bank holiday has been declared to help mark the occasion on Monday, the 8th of May. Residents coming together to organise street parties marking royal or other national events has long been a proud British tradition, and the coronation will offer communities throughout Wales and the UK a great chance to get together and hold a celebration with neighbours and friends. To support residents who wish to do so, this council has produced a step-by-step webpage offering practical advice designed to ensure that people can celebrate safely, while also enabling key routes to remain open. The webpage includes top tips that range from benefits of planning early or making sure that first aid is available to applying for alcohol and entertainment licences or requesting a road closure. Whilst there's no charge for applying for temporary road closure, members may want to remind residents that all applications must be submitted 10 working days before the date of the planned event, so not long left to apply. Full details are available at the council website. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Let us move on then to item number 6 on the agenda, the Wellbeing Plan for Cwm Taf Morgannwg. I will now ask the Chief Exec to present this report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say at the outset, I'm joined by colleagues Helen Hammond and Kirsty Williams at the back, who deserve all the credit for pulling this plan together and will also be available to answer any questions should there be any. The purpose of the report, Mr. Mayor, is to seek approval from the Council of the Wellbeing Plan for the Cwm Taf Morgannwg Public Services Board. The background to this is set out in paragraph 3. Again, it revolves around the Wellbeing of the Future Generations Act and the legal responsibility to improve economic, social and environmental and cultural well-being of the area by contributing to the achievement of the 7 national wellbeing goals. The Act places a wellbeing duty on specified public bodies, of which we are one, as part of the PSB, firstly to assess the state of economic, social, environmental and cultural well-being in the area, to use that assessment to set out well-being objectives, that is the plan, and then finally, obviously, to work together to implement those objectives. Paragraph 3.4 just references the fact that we are in the process of effectively merging into a Cwm Taf Morgannwg Public Service Board. So previously there was a Bridgend one and there was an RCT and Merthyr one, but it makes sense for that to work on the same footprint as the Health Board to avoid duplication and enable more effective joint working to improve well-being for people in the area. So the fact that we're going to have a single PSB for the Cwm Taf Morgannwg area means that the wellbeing assessment has been prepared to cover the whole of that area and was done in close collaboration with the Regional Partnership Board. Following the publication of the plan, the PSBs will then formally merge to form the Cwm Taf Morgannwg Public Service Board. The current situation is that the Wellbeing Plan was approved by the Shadow Cwm Taf Public Services Board at its meeting on the 28th of February 2023. And the details of the plan are obviously in the appendice, but just briefly, there are 2 main objectives. The first is around healthy local neighbourhoods, as set out in paragraph 4.3, and the other is around sustainable and resilient local neighbourhoods, again in the second bullet point of 4.3. I think the plan obviously is a regional plan, but I think the point made in paragraph 4.4 is that it also has a local emphasis around neighbourhoods, and I think that's really important if people are concerned about the larger footprint. Paragraph 4.5 sets out the ways of working for the PSB. I think these are important, but I won't read them out in full. But clearly the things you might expect there about involvement and citizen voice come through very, very strongly. And then paragraph 4.6 through to 4.9 sets out the significant amount of collaboration and engagement that was undertaken to develop the plan. And you will note, particularly in paragraph 4.9, the high level of approval for the objectives that have been set out in the plan. Finally, Mr. Mayor, in paragraph 4.10, it now falls upon every body within the Public Service Board to separately and independently approve the plan, which is why it is in front of Council today. So that takes you to the recommendations, Mr. Mayor, in paragraph 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Before I open up this item for discussion and debate, can I please have a mover and seconder for the report, please? Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. I have a couple of hands raised in front of me. Councillor Heather Griffiths, please.
Thank you. Are there plans to ensure that this plan is going to be fully accessible to everyone? The copy we have doesn't actually meet the accessibility requirements. Can I have clarification on that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Chief Exec, are you able to answer that? Or should we defer to Kirsty, Laura or Helen, sitting in the back? Helen, are you able to answer that question on the subject matter of accessibility?
In terms of the design of the plan, yes, there was an assessment made of it by the design team to ensure that it was be accessible.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Griffiths? Partly. Is there something that can we seek clarification on anything? Okay. Moving on, Councillor Tim Thomas, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just like to turn to the full quality impact assessment, particularly the evidence base. Yeah, the document is very clear on the number of online survey responses, 238. To supplement this quantitative research, there's in addition, there's a bit of qualitative research which has been supplemented by some consultation tables in a number of locations. I'm quite interested to know what was the attendance in those consultation tables, particularly the one in Sarn Library, and the feedback as well, of course.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Helen, Kirsty, are you able to help with the consultation issue?
We don't have specific figures for each of those sites. What we did is engage in conversation with the people that we met there and fed those results into the online survey as we were having the conversations there. Okay.
There's no specific information, though, available in relation to Sarn Life Centre, which the council has just raised.
No, but we will be preparing a more detailed report on the engagement that was undertaken to bring through different messages across all of the ranges of consultation.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Councillor Jane Gebbie, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I wonder if you could confirm to members, it's a bit of clarity really, around the actual governance arrangements for the PSB, the accountability and the finance arrangements, because I think for members here, they don't understand what the PSB is. I don't think they understand who is responsible for what, and I think that might be a good further explanation for them. Thanks very much.
Helen?
That's quite a long question to answer, and I think it's really important to have that sort of level of understanding, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to hold a member information session back during the consultation period in February to talk about sort of like the elements within the Act and the responsibilities that places on the Public Services Board. As the Chief Executive sort of like explained the process, the Public Services Board has a collective responsibility to prepare the plan and to deliver the elements within that plan.
Okay, thanks, Helen. The Chief Exec would like to come in as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder, I think it's a fair point, Councillor Gebbie. I wonder whether it might be helpful if we circulated something more detailed about the Public Service Board and the representation on it. So obviously it's a statutory body, there are statutory partners in it, but we have the right to nominate people to sit on that board. It's generally at a higher level. I sit on it, the leader historically has been on it. There are then subgroups, but if we were to set that out, I think it might give some reassurance about the involvement on it and our role within it, if that's okay.
I think that might be of benefit. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I should come through you. I do beg your pardon. Apologies. I think for me, what I'm keen for members to understand is that this is all in flux at the minute. I'm chair of the RPB. Governance is a big issue because accountability isn't there currently with Welsh Government, and I think it's something that we all need to know. I think it's also something that we need to have a further discussion on, because I don't think the governance arrangements are such that there is any accountability. There is this wellbeing plan. There is this group that meets. I'd actually like to see what they actually do and what they actually produce, I think, in relation to services. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie, and thank you, Chief Exec. I think, Helen, your suggestion for a member engagement session on the PSB will be most welcome. Thank you. Councillor Paul Davis.
Thank you, Chair.
F1.
Could you mute right now, Chair? No. Right. Sorry, Chair. Chair, I'm currently Deputy Chair of ILC Kyra, Deputy Chair of Kyra Development Trust. I'm really unaware of how the PSB affects, it mentions throughout the report, how they work with partners, throughout the county borough to get, these achieve what their aims. I'd like to know, Chair, what the PSB, what impact the PSB has had on Cairo, which is one of the most deprived wards of the county borough. I work with these. I've never, the only ones that have ever approached me and said, "Oh, I'm from the PSB," or "I don't know how it works. I don't know how that is supposed to happen." For me to say to a constituent, the PSB is doing anything for them. Secondly, Chair, on page 66, 67, there's a table. I was just looking for it there when you called me regarding the Welsh language. It says 57.99% cannot speak any Welsh language at all, have no knowledge of the Welsh language at all. There's no feedback and on the right-hand column or any action points. I'd like to know what the PSB is doing to achieve more use of the Welsh language. Because on their chart that they provided, they've got no actions on how they're going to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I think your point in relation to the influence and impact the PSB can have on the Cairo ward, I mean, we could replicate that on the four corners of the county borough. And perhaps, Helen and Kirsty, that is something that we could perhaps bear in mind for this member engagement session, in terms of it tailoring the engagement session to meet the needs of members. But although, and again, picking up on the point in relation to the Welsh language issue, I can see that the Councillor Davis quite rightly has picked up that there's nothing in the feedback areas of concern raised or action points. Very briefly, I just wonder if you were able to just provide some reassurance as to how we are addressing a need then to improve knowledge, understanding of Welsh language across the county borough.
Thank you. Some of the points that we got in the equalities impact assessment sort of like explain some of the messages that that have come through the engagement that we undertake. And I think those are important messages for us to take forward into the engagement of the Public Services Board going through, and also in terms of monitoring and evaluating how Welsh language has been a part of how the Public Services Board do its business. There's lots of different opportunities to engage with Welsh speakers, and we need to make sure that we're making the best of those opportunities as a Public Services Board. And engagement is part of an important element for the Public Services Board. Ways of working that was outlined in the report, and we're fortunate to have the support of the Co-Production Network for Wales, who are going to help us to improve the way that we engage with people, including Welsh speakers, and so that we can be much more inclusive and aware of the Welsh language within the area.
Thank you, Helen. I'm moving on because I'm very conscious there are 3 other members who wish to speak on this agenda item. Councillor Jonathan Pratt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question on Objective 1, which is the healthy local neighbourhoods, and specifically to live our lives locally. I'm sure the PSB and council as a whole will encourage the use of local services when they are there. I'm just conscious that it is not the objective of the Public Services Board to remove choice, that if people choose to use services outside of their locality, that they'll be free to do so, such as GP surgeries and such forth. Just a clarity on that point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pratt. Council Leader has indicated that he can help you with that. Council Leader, please.
We can give that absolute clarity, I'm sure, from all the partners, that does not remove the right to choice. That right to choice is enshrined in legislation for patients, and there are lots of patients, probably hundreds, if not thousands, across the county borough for different and good reasons For example, will that be accessing practices in places where they don't live? So that can, of course, continue and is not in any way undermined by this plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There you are, Councillor Pratt. You've got that reassurance there. Thank you. Councillor Elaine Winstanley, please.
Hi, I'd like to pick up on the discussion about the Welsh language, and I note that this document that we have before us is not bilingual, and I would like confirmation that it would be a bilingual document when it is released, because that would fit in with the Welsh language standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Councillor Leader?
We can confirm that it definitely will be translated. And if it wasn't going to be, it is going to be now, but I'm sure that's not the case. It was planned to be translated, but as you know, currently plans that are brought here in the Welsh language, and of course we make sure that all our statutory documents are published in Welsh as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Leader. Councillor Simon Griffiths, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So our local development plan has going through the final stages at the moment for Bridgend, and I'd like to understand how or what processes are in place to align the public sector plans with the LDP, because that obviously outlines our major population growth over the next 10 years.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Helen, could you help the councillor with that question, aligning the PSB plan with the LDP?
The asset sub-board and which is part of the current Bridgend Public Services Board has got the LDP officer as part of its membership. So we've been able to work together through the life of the previous plan to have an understanding about that relationship, and the information as part of the wellbeing assessment as the new plan was being developed drew on information that was being used for the local development plan, so that there was a relationship between those two things, and the wellbeing assessment is sort of like the base, the evidence base that the wellbeing plan was developed on. So we have had that relationship going through that process.
Thank you, Helen. The Chief Exec has indicated he also wishes to contribute.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I just wanted to give you reassurance, really, that obviously that alignment has been something that all of the partners have been concerned about, and I suppose the reassurance is that the plans are developed on the same national policy basis and Wellbeing of Future Generations Act basis and principles. And I would hope you haven't identified anything that's contradictory, because it has been sense checked in that manner, not obviously just for us, because it's a regional plan, so also in terms of RCT and Merthyr. But I think the reassurance should be that in terms of how we move forward and in terms of our ways of working and the overlying principles, the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act is really the guiding document for both plans to some extent.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I sincerely hope that is not a photograph. That is a photograph and not a window of the weather outside.
I think it's a bit calmer today, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your question. I can see that no other members have indicated they wish to speak, so I'm going to take members to the recommendation, which can be found on page 51. Paragraph 9.1, it's recommended that Council approves the wellbeing plan attached as Appendix 1 for Cwmtaf Morgannwg Public Services Board. Are we all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on then to agenda number 7, which is 4 questions from members. Can I remind members we have 30 minutes allocated to this agenda item. Each member who presented the question is also entitled to present a supplementary question, which must be of the same topic, of course, and then I will invite any other member to raise their hand for one further question. The first question on our agenda is Councillor Tim Wood, who addressed a question to the Canberra member for regeneration. Councillor Wood, you've had a response to your question.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes,
please?
I do. Yeah. Traders were told this information in a traders meeting 5 to 6 weeks ago, yet elected members who cover this area are only being told today after a written question to council. It has been 7 years since the consultation. It is time to do what residents want and other towns have done elsewhere in Wales. What assurances will you give me today that this project will go ahead, given how many people requested this, and that councillors will be kept fully up to date on the progress? Thank you.
Councillor Farr, we also have Zach Shell here as well, who perhaps can help. Can I first defer to you, Councillor Farr, then perhaps invite Zach Shell to also contribute?
Thank you. I think you've had a comprehensive answer. And what you're asking me is, when will this project go forward? Is that the three options that they're looking at? Zach, can I pass that to you, because you'll know when you're doing that?
Actually, sorry to intervene here, the Chief Exec has indicated that he may be able to help you, Councillor Wood. Then I'll defer to Mr. Shell. Chief Exec, please.
Well, only Councillor Wood, that I think the comprehensive response sets out the current position. I think probably what I would reiterate is that a number of things have changed since 2016, not least Welsh Government planning policy. I think it's made it more difficult, but not impossible, to do what was originally surveyed. I think the commitment that's been given is that we're currently exploring what options may still be feasible, but then there is, I think it's only fair to say for council members' benefit, there is then the issue then of affordability. So undoubtedly from my conversations with Welsh Government, it is now much more difficult to secure external funding for that kind of thing than it was in 2016. But I think it's not meant to be a negative response. We're currently exploring options which may be deliverable. Once we've established what will be deliverable, we then need to establish whether they're affordable. And I think that's really what the response says. On the wider point about keeping members informed, absolutely, we will endeavour to do that as this moves along. It's been a long haul, but as things move along, we will endeavour to make sure you're fully informed.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Zach, would you like to contribute? You don't have to, but...
Yeah, there probably isn't much more to say, thanks to Mark's response. Probably what I would add is certainly I'd just draw attention to the penultimate paragraph, which picks up on the point that Mark made about affordability. Certainly we do have to consider a scheme which is financially deliverable for the authority, as is mentioned in that penultimate paragraph. I was actively involved in previous options that were made prior to the more recent changes in policy, active travel, etc., back around the 2016 time. And the options that were considered were all basically very costly, necessarily costly. They had to protect the public, they had to keep everyone safe, but nevertheless costly. And certainly, whilst there's a lot of work to be done, I know through discussions with DELIF around the free options that are being considered now, a lot of attention is being given to keeping those free options as affordable as possible, while still maintaining that safe environment for everyone that's in the area. So affordability is key because external funding is so hard to get. I don't think any guarantees can be given because of those yet to be determined costs from these free options that are being looked at the moment, and the yet to be determined funding channels. But certainly officers are working hard on it, and it's never been given up on, and it's a challenge, in a very fluid and moving environment.
Thank you, Zach. I'm going to take one further question. There's a little bit of mischief ongoing here at the moment. Can I please appeal to members to raise their hands when I invite them to do so? On this occasion, I will take Councillor Bledsow's as the final question on this particular topic. Councillor Bledsoe, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had training from Councillor Tim Thomas on how to do this. Before I ask my question, I'd first of all like to thank the Chief Executive for the assistance that he's been on this matter today, but I would like to make the political members of the Cabinet aware that this weekend a member of the public, an elderly member of the public, was taken ill in a restaurant in Bridgend Town Centre. When they phoned for an ambulance, they were told it would be 8 hours, and the emergency services requested that the relative deliver that ill member of the public by car to the hospital. The bollard operators did not allow the car into town, putting that member of the public's health at serious risk as they were unwell. Our chief executive has emailed me today with an attempt to try and remedy this issue. My concern is that this is the second time this has happened in the last 3 months in Bridgend Town Centre. Can I please have an undertaking from the political leaders of this authority that we will try to address this matter as a matter of urgency before potentially somebody dies in our town because ambulances can't get to them and cars can't get in? Thank you.
Well, I'm sure everybody in the chamber shares your concern, Councillor Bledsoe, and I'm going to invite a member of the Cabinet to respond to you on the basis that the topic is accessibility to the town centre. Council Leader?
Well, thank you for raising. I know you've raised it with the Chief Executive. I haven't raised that with me yet. I'm sure you will share that with me. And when you share it with me, of course, I will take that up. I'm more than happy to take that up with our teams and also with South Wales Police, of course, who exercise those powers. And I will take that up as a matter of urgency, as I'm sure will Councillor Farr as well, following on from this meeting. But as I said, Mr Mayor, I wasn't shared this information until now. But thank you for doing that, and we will take it up with South Wales Police and with our teams.
Thank you, Councillor Leader, and thank you, Councillor Bledsoe. I'm going to move on. Sorry, by all means, yes, by all means.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with Councillor Bledsoe. I think it's something that we need to look at urgently. I don't know if we can look at it from the community safety element as well, because that's what it's all about. It's about community safety.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. I'm going to move on now to the second question, which was a question presented by Councillor Alex Williams to the Cabinet Member for Communities. Councillor Williams, I can see that you're accessing the meeting virtually. Good afternoon to you. Could you confirm that you've had a response, please?
Good afternoon, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the response and greetings from Lanzarote.
Oh, envious, having seen the photograph behind Councillor Griffiths previously. Do you have a supplementary question, please?
I do, thank you. I'd like to thank the Cabinet Member for his response, in which he mentioned support for Route 65, which runs from Bridgend to Talbot Green via Helakew in the ward which I represent. The leader mentioned that the bus emergency scheme earlier during his announcements, and members will know that council leaders recently wrote to the Welsh Government to say that local bus services are a lifeline for older people, young people, people with disabilities and low-income households, and that the loss of these bus services would impact on their well-being by restricting access to educational, economic, health and leisure services and to family and social contacts. I'm sure that we're all unanimous in agreement with this, Mr Mayor, but it shouldn't be forgotten that it was this administration which started this so-called rationalisation of bus services by withdrawing subsidised routes in the last term of the council in both 2017 and 2019. This has culminated in the drip-drip effect of withdrawing subsidies to support core bus services which serve to connect isolated communities such as Helakew. It was only in January, Mr Mayor, that we discussed our Net Zero 2030 strategy, and an effective public transport system was cited as a factor which would have an essential role to play. Indeed, in February, Cabinet gave the go-ahead to get the new multi-million-pound Metrolink and bus terminus for Porthcawl over the line, and now they're at risk of having no buses to even go there. In isolated communities such as Helakew and other communities in our three valleys with no active travel routes, people rely on bus services to remain connected with other communities. Furthermore, if we're to encourage people to get out of their cars, we need to maintain a regular and reliable local bus service, which will contribute to our objective of becoming a net zero local authority. So therefore, can I ask the Cabinet Member if he can commit today to ensuring that this local authority will find the transitional funding necessary, to subsidise the core bus network, which serves our most isolated and disconnected people in our communities, after the Welsh Government's bus emergency scheme comes to a conclusion in July, until a more sustainable funding model is found. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Spanswick, are you able to assist the councillor, please?
Yes, definitely. And let's go back a step, because you refer to this administration or previous administration cut to the bus subsidies, which took place over a period of time up to May 2019 due to austerity cuts of the Westminster government. That was part of the £70-odd million we've had to save over the years. So it refers to that this administration, but that comes back to national government and the cuts that they made to local government. Not something we want to be done, and every year the cuts are made across various services, and never the choices we want to make, but the choice we have to make to set a balanced budget, as we've just gone through recently. To make a commitment to the future is almost impossible, because at this moment in time we do not know the cost of routes, the subsidised routes ongoing from the end of the subsidies that are there now. Every service that I understand that currently it runs within County Borough cannot operate commercially. So on that basis, every service needs a subsidy. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with this authority at the moment, with bus companies and with Welsh Government and ministers. Myself and the leader are due to meet the minister, I think, next week to start talking in more depth about where we can take this going forward. We're committed to public service, to public transport, take that forward. We'll do everything in our endeavours to make sure that we maintain a public service, a public transport service. But it will require financial assistance from this authority or Welsh Government or both, which at this moment in time is not in place beyond July this year. Difficult times, difficult decisions. Unfortunately, cannot give a commitment to something we do not have a figure on. But we're committed to make it work.
Thank you, Councillor Spanswick. Not the answer you were looking for, Councillor Williams, but I'm going to have to move on and invite any questions from any other member on this topic, please. And I can see, I'm afraid, Councillor Della Hughes, you did raise your hand before I invited members to speak, so I'm going to go to Councillor Heidi Bennett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo some of the issues raised by Councillor Alex Williams. My ward of Pen y Fay has been without a bus service since July 2022, and that's impacted negatively on residents' well-being, leaving many feeling isolated and unable to access key services. And as noted previously, this particularly affects our older population. Can the Cabinet member clarify what is the local authority's responsibility in relation to public transport provision, and what is being done now to try and deliver a sustainable solution, please?
Thank you for that question. And as I said, there is a lot of work on behind the scenes to take this forward. But a step back first, when we talk in this chamber and across services about statutory services and what we should provide, public transport is not legally, as far as correct me if I'm wrong, we are not responsible for providing a public transport network. What we have is a network of private companies operating buses. So ultimately, you could argue we don't need to provide that, but morally, economically, we need to be there to support our communities and the public transport in those communities. But if you go back to bus deregulation many, many years ago, that's where it started falling apart. And as it stands now, we do not have to provide a penny on a public transport network if we decide not to. Clearly, that's not where we are heading. We are trying our best to be there to support our communities and the local economy to make sure we have a sustainable public transport network going forward. But there's a lot of work yet to be done.
Thank you, Councillor Spanswick. Our constitution doesn't allow us to have any further questions on this subject matter. So I'm going to move on to Councillor Tim Thomas, who also posed a question to the Cabinet Member for Communities. Councillor Thomas, will you confirm that you've had a written response, please?
Yes, I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
And do you have a supplementary question?
I do, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, firstly, Councillor John and I went on a walk with a local constituent who also happens to be a wheelchair user. And we did that to learn some of her experiences. I wrote a short report and copied in some of the relevant senior officers and members. Unfortunately, I didn't get a response to that, but I hope perhaps I could get a response to that outside this meeting at a later date. Moving to the original question, It was good to see that accessibility has been considered for new builds through the planning system and development for existing development, through the active travel routes as well. But my question, I think, is quite apt given the leader's statement about the consultation about parking on pavements. And I'm just quite interested to know what audits have this authority done to look at the appropriateness of existing street furniture to check whether it's appropriate and not obsolete for accessibility for disabled and elderly people, as the leader did cite walking streets in the consultation, and I believe this is also a campaign aim of walking streets as well, to ensure that street furniture in our highways is appropriate in terms of accessibility. Thank you.
So please help me to understand your question. Your question is very much based on what audits have been undertaken. Is that right?
Yeah. In regards of street furniture,
yes,
that the local authority have implemented.
Yes.
To make sure that it's not preventing access for elderly people and disabled people.
Okay, I will come to the Cabinet member, but perhaps on the basis that it's fairly technical in nature, Zach, are you able to help us first and foremost?
Yeah, I think I would have to come back to confirm. We certainly undertake regular inspections of the highway. We have highway inspection officers who are out there on a continuous basis undertaking inspections. But in regard to the very specific item of an audit for street furniture in regard to accessibility, it's a very specific point, and I wouldn't want to make a generalised response. So I'd need to come back and check what audits have been carried out specifically in that regard.
Thank you, Zach. Cabinet member, would you like to add to that? Why am I looking there and not looking here? Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I am here, over on the left. Look, I'm over.
You're to the left, the left.
Yeah, thanks for Councillor Thomas, and it would be useful, perhaps the email you referred to was a while back, if that could be resent, and if there are specific examples of issues in your ward that where there's perhaps you referred to the access audit and there may be issues there that preventing this further development of disabled parking. That itself can be looked at, but we do need to look, as Zach said, at the wider issue. I would hope that when street furniture goes in, there's assessments made to make sure it's not there and causing another problem. But as Zach said, that's quite a technical matter that needs looking at, and we can come back to you on that further. But please be assured, we're committed to do what we can for accessibility for the elderly and disabled on parking highways.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Zach.
One thing I can add is I'm certainly aware of instances where there's been requests for street furniture that have been turned down because they would potentially create problems of that nature. But again, on the specific audit point, I'll come back.
Thank you. Can I now invite any other member to present a question on this matter, please? Councillor Melanie Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note actually in the answer that there are 264 locations referenced to curb changes. Therefore, please could I ask that you elaborate on where those locations are referenced to those dropped curbs, please?
That's a good question, Councillor Spanswick. Do you want me to go right here? Or do you want me to stay with you on the left?
We'll start at number 1 and we'll get the 264. I mean, it does break it down. So there's 201 locations for curbing through Welsh Government Active Travel, and the majority of Porthcawl there. There's 50 locations where curbing has been altered to facilitate improved pedestrian access, funded through Holt Street by Furniture Renewal, and those 50 are very rare. I won't ignore, but they made up of four areas in particular. 50 curbed alterations, which are in Kendy Drive, Pencoed, Cai Berlan, Pencoed, Rockfields in Porthcawl, and St Nicholas in Wild Mills. There's 4 locations there. I've had a total of 50 curb alterations. And there's just one other figure. There was something about 11. I think it's 11. Locations. And again, purely through BCBC capital funding that we put there. Those 11 locations then are made up of a number of streets. There's Picton Gardens in Bridgend, Heelaron in Bridgend, Mackworth Street, Bridgend, Herbert Street, Bridgend, Tremaines Court in Brackler, Foxhall in Brackler, and Coaches Road, Coed and Caiglas, Pencoed. So there's 11 there, and that's directly funded through the capital programme that we've put together. So there's some great work ongoing. There'll always be lots more to do, and there is lots more to do with pedestrian aids and drop curbs, but there's some great work and great progress being made the past year on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spanswick. And I can see that Councillor Griffiths has indicated he wishes to speak. However, our constitution does not allow any further questions on this. I'm afraid, Councillor Griffiths, I'm not going to take a question from you because I'm going to go to the fourth question that we have presented to us, and that is from Councillor Ian Williams to the Cabinet Member for Regeneration. Councillor Williams, would you confirm that you've had a written response, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have. Thank you.
And do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your response, Councillor Farr. I think some of the response was from a generic communication because my question was directly related to Bridgend Town Centre and the dilapidated state of far too many town centre buildings. I refer specifically to the ranch on Norton Street, which is both dangerous and an eyesore and has meant the pavement being fenced off in that area for nearly 3 years. It's also had a significant impact on nearby residents who are unable to sell their properties due to the disgraceful state of this building. The other property in question is number 2 Awenny Road, which is one of the first things people see when accessing our town centre from Awenny Road and Cowbridge Road. This property has been empty for 35 years and nothing has been done by this authority to get something done to make it habitable. I'll also mention the York and Munros, which is outside my ward, but it's the first thing that people see when entering the town by the bus station. When will this authority use compulsory purchase order to take ownership of these buildings, a course of action that they have been happy to use in Porthcawl? Thank you, Councillor Farr.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Farr, please.
The ranch, unfortunately, I cannot discuss. And to any road, I'm not sure. Did you know who that belongs to? Does it belong to the council?
No.
Okay. So, I mean.
35 years now, Councillor Farr.
Okay.
No pigeons that inhabit it. It's teaching you as you come into town from Cowbridge Road. It's an absolute eyesore.
Okay.
Planning went through in Bridgend Town.
Mr. Mayor, we can't hear any of this remotely.
We can't hear, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Williams.
Just to explain that it's...
when you speak, you have to have your microphone on. But in fairness to the Cabinet Member, perhaps you'd allow the Cabinet Member to respond to you in relation to the 3 premises that you've just outlined. I just to support the Cabinet Member on this, the first premises, the ranch, a former chip shop, I understand there are legal issues ongoing, so we cannot discuss that in full council today, but I'm sure the Cabinet Member will be able to help you with the 2 other premises.
Thank you.
I think what I'm going to say is that there are lots of buildings across this county borough that need to be looked at and updated, and the officers are working. We do have an empty property action plan, which was developed last year jointly with the Welsh Government. It is due to be reviewed in the summer, I understand. Yeah, there are legal actions that we need to take to bring these back. I'm going to pass it to Zach, who can give you more specific details about what the council can do and can't do.
If I could just refer to Kelly, I could give more specific information on some of the properties mentioned. We have our action plan, number 2 Awenny Road. I could provide some more information now, but we are talking about specific properties that have owners that would be being referenced in a public meeting. So I'd like to take advice on that before responding further.
Perhaps, I mean, it's reassuring for members, just speaking on your behalf, it's reassuring to hear that there is ongoing legal processes, and we as members should be reassured and satisfied with that, and perhaps not put officers into a position where they may be disclosing information which could prejudice those legal processes. Does that help you, Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you've covered it all.
Yeah, so where there are ongoing legal proceedings, we obviously can't discuss those in the public domain. I'm sure that if members have got individual queries on specific properties, if they contact the relevant officers, they will provide you with as much information as they can on a confidential basis. But whilst proceedings are ongoing, we can't give full details in the public domain.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Zach. So I'm going to move on to one. I'm going to take one question, please. And I can see, Councillor Bledsoe, you're being a little bit mischievous here. I'm going to invite one question from the floor. Means that you're the only councillor who has raised their hand. I'll defer to Councillor Freya Bledsoe, please, on this subject matter, of course.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was a little quick off the mark there. It's good to hear that there are processes that can be used. However, I am aware that a number of the premises haven't gone through any processes, and there is an issue with our town looking degraded because these processes aren't being used. When will we ever see them being used? Because some of these properties are left for years, and we have had a walk around, and that was some time ago now, and nothing has progressed. So it does feel very frustrating as if nothing happens, and I do wonder if we couldn't move this process along a little swifter just to make our towns look better and be more habitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bledsoe. I think we have interrogated this subject matter quite in detail this afternoon, and there are no more questions that can be posed in relation to this agenda item. So I'm going to move on to item number 8, which is urgent items. I have received no urgent items, so I'm going to bring this meeting to a close. Please have a safe journey home, and you may very well need an umbrella. Councillor Stephen Bledsoe.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say that I think Councillor Farr wanted to answer Councillor Bledsoe's question.
Did you? I thought personally, well, can I just say personally, I just thought we flogged that a bit to death, really, about the legal issues. You made a point. Unless, okay, I'll invite the cabinet member who wants to say something, but I felt we'd have flogged it.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I do agree with you, Councillor Bledsoe. I've done the walk around and I can see the buildings. I think it's working with the office to see what we can do, because you'll know the majority of these buildings belong to one person, and I guess if they're not prepared to do work with us. I mean, the other council does offer grant, does offer support for these buildings to be brought back into some kind of usable access, but yeah, we are aware, and the officers are working on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I just say as well, I'm not. I don't know what's gone wrong this afternoon, but I'm certainly not having raised hands in front of me like I have done previously. Perhaps that's why I missed your question. Does anybody else now then, cabinet members, wish to respond? Okay.
And that's only to say, I think as members, we need to make a determination about what we want to do. And that's because compulsory purchase orders are exceptionally costly to get through legal proceedings. Where do we get that funding from? And it also takes many, many years. Don't disagree, mind, I think 35 years. However, it's not our property, and I think we need to be cognizant of that. And I also don't think our electorate would be happy with us spending an absolute fortune of their money on pursuing some of these landlords yeah, sorry, they wouldn't. I wouldn't. Definitely not, especially if you came after me. So, I think we need to have a balance around how we do things. I do agree, though. I do think we need to move some things along. But what I would say is we need to make a decision about how we spend our budget going forward and what we need to prioritise. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie. And I can see no hands raised in front of me from this side of the chamber or from the row in front of me. Item number 8, there are no urgent items. So yet again, please have a safe journey home and take care in this bad weather. Good afternoon to you all.